Hello, everybody. This is Mike Young with aPlantBasedDiet.org, and I am very excited here to have Chuck Carrol from PCRM, the Physicians Committee for Responsible Medicine. And we're going to talk everything about Chuck and what he does with PCRM. Welcome, Chuck.
Hey, glad to be here. Thank you so very much for having me, my friend.
Of course. Yes, I'm glad that we finally get to sit or I'm standing actually and talk, because I love to hear more about what you do. I know you do this really full time. I think you're exclusively doing interviews, podcasts, things like that. Is that right?
Absolutely. Yeah. I host the Exam Room podcast, and that is like the best job I've ever had because I get to talk about health and nutrition and all of the benefits that come with eating a plant-based diet full time. The fact that I'm actually making a career out of doing this, it's like it's a pinch me moment. You know what I mean? Like I never thought in a million years I would be in this position.
That's awesome. Yeah. And you're obviously excited about it. Yeah. It's like obviously a dream come true. It sounds like for you. I mean, for me, obviously I'm not in that position, but I can fully understand how excited you are, because it's not, so unfortunately, not all that often when someone can align their passion and their life purpose with a paid job, and a career. So I applaud you for that. Actually, I am so thankful that we get to see people doing that now.
Yeah, I definitely feel very, very fortunate, but I also know all of the hard work that you're putting in to hopefully make this a full-time reality for yourself. I mean, don't sell yourself short on that front. I mean, you are putting in just as much time, effort, and energy as anybody. So my hat is off to you as well, my friend. I know how busy you are, and frankly, it blows my mind.
Right. Okay. Yeah. I'm busy, that's for sure. But again, I feel the same as you. I mean, it's a passion. It's a life purpose, and I'm glad to be in this space. Truly, right? Yeah. I mean, because I think that, I don't know if you can agree with this, but I would say that there's nothing more important right now than transmitting this message out to the general public. The general public doesn't quite get it at this point in time, so we're at an interesting point. And your job, I guess, is a facilitator, right? To bring this knowledge to the people. So how do you do that? What do you do in your podcast? Who are people that you talk to? What are the topics you discuss? This kind of stuff.
Well, I'm fortunate to be aligned with the Physicians Committee, and before I came on board, I mean, they had already laid down decades worth of work, and so they had built up this incredible reputation. And obviously, having Dr. Neil Barnard at the top of the organization opens up a lot of doors, so we can get some really great guests on. The day that we record this, as a matter of fact, I just released an interview with Moby, who is one of the greatest musicians of the modern era. Matter of fact, even Rolling Stone ranked one of his albums in one of the top 500 of all time. And just an ultra talented guy, but even a better human being than a musician, and having him share just this heartwarming tale of why he went vegan. And it dates, Mike, all the way back to when he was just little more than a toddler, and seeing his father bring home all of these rats that he had rescued from a nearby lab at a university. And so that planted the seed for what would become this really incredible relationship he was able to forge with animals. But the cool thing about this story is, and here's why I love my job so much, is getting the little details about these stories. And so many things our listeners, the exam roomies, as I call them, they can kind of parallel that, because even though he had this great passion for animals, it wasn't until 17 years after those rats came home that he decided, oh, I love animals so much, I shouldn't be eating them. It's hypocritical. It's a juxtaposition that just doesn't compute. There's a conflict there. Right. And so that was many, many moons ago at this point, and he was well ahead of the vegan curve. And so just hearing him share that story and how with each passing day, his love grows even more, it's really kind of cool. And then on the nutrition side, Dr. Barnard, of course, is a regular guest there. We've got Dr. Michael Greger, Dr. Clapper. I mean, you name it, they've been on the show. So that's a really long-winded answer of saying everybody.
Yeah, that's excellent. Well, so Moby, it sounds like he made that connection, right? He made that connection on his own, like you said, because of his dad bringing home these animals. And do you see a larger, I'd say, I almost say like an awakening in society now? Are more people than ever making this connection that you're seeing?
I think so, but I always, when I'm asked this, kind of couch it because I'm very aware of the fact that I operate in this vegan bubble. And I'm well aware that the majority of my audience are people who are already reaping the benefits of a plant-based diet. So what I look for are the metrics outside of this bubble. And primarily that's going to be in business and what people are putting in their shopping cart. And so when you see those trends, the explosion of plant-based options over the last 5 years and what's projected to come over the next 20 and even 30 years, yeah, I'm very much optimistic that people are getting on this train. I don't think that there's any doubting that at this point. It's just a fact. That's where we're going.
Excellent. Well, that's good to hear from you, someone who spends so much time and has dedicated a career to this, to hear this, because it's just reinforcing that we're all doing the right thing. I think people are, there's like an awakening almost taking place. And of course, like you mentioned, you have Dr. Neil Barnard with PCRM. I think he approaches this from a more scientific side. Is that correct?
Oh, absolutely. He's steeped in research. I mean, the way that the physicians committee is organized is, we even have the Barnard Medical Center that works with patients one-on-one. We have the communication side, the nonprofit side, where I kind of operate, which is all about promoting the plant-based lifestyle and animal welfare advocacy, and then research. So this is what you were getting at is we, in addition to, keeping up with the latest research out there, we have people on our staff, Dr. Hana Kaliova in particular, who leads research all day, every day. And the science, Mike, oh my God, it is some of the coolest things ever. And it all points toward the benefits of a plant-based diet. I'm yet to see anything that would say, oh, no, this is not the direction that you want to go. Everything is saying, run, do not walk to the nearest plant-based diet.
Right. Well, that's good to hear. I mean, so you obviously know you've got more. Let's say you're more like an insider almost, right? Because you're in this bubble, like you said. But it's so reassuring to hear from you that the deeper you dive into this, because you're obviously diving deeper than most folks have on a daily basis over there at PCRM, that you keep coming up with more evidence supporting the lifestyle.
Absolutely. And I also want to point out to the cynics who could say, well, yeah, we are very much a plant-based organization. You could accuse us of being biased. One, I know the legitimacy of the research that is being done. Okay. So I know that, but it's understandable if you take that approach because you're not within the physicians committee realm. That's cool. I got you. So what I would encourage you to do then is look at the studies that are promoting, eating meat, consuming dairy, and look at where those funds are coming from. And so those are all the pro meat and dairy studies that you're seeing. And then what you really want to look for is that independent research, the people who are studying nutrition that have no conflicts, as they call it, whatsoever, and look at those results. Right. And those, far more often than not, point toward a plant-based diet being the healthiest diet out there that will help lower so many of these lower the risk for so many of these chronic diseases that are just plaguing us. I mean, millions of people, Mike, as you know, get diagnosed with these unnecessarily every year.
Okay, now you said that there's these studies that are independent. I mean, I do hear even from people on the plant-based side, right? Especially, I think Dr. Campbell comes to mind, how he says that it's hard to find any kind of science that hasn't been bought and paid for up front. But you're saying these exist, right? And that folks should seek those out. And are you guys looking for these as well?
Of course. I mean, we look for everything. I can't speak for everybody at the physicians committee. I'm just one guy. We have a lot of people there. But by and large, if the research isn't credible, we won't cite it. And so, yeah, research it's funded. But if you go to universities and organizations or places like that, those are the people who I'm talking about, where even if the money comes from this place or that place, they don't really care. I mean, the studies are being funded and that's not going to skew the results.
Yes.
So
yes.
Yeah, the money may be coming from a plant-based organization, but the fact of the matter is, even if in the off chance that it would have said, well, yeah, red meat will save your life, the university would run with the headline, red meat may save your life.
Yeah.
But what the results are showing is anything but red meat will save your life. It's saying red meat will take years off of your life.
That's right. That's right. All right. Well, that's interesting to know. I mean, I think that's where we are right now in this plant-based movement. Is we're at a point in time where so many folks have thought one thing for such a long time, and then we've got this new thought pattern that has come into line. Obviously, PCRM is a pioneer and has been in this for a while, like you pointed out, longer than most folks. So you have a lot of experience. And we're in that transition, right, from the old ways of thinking, at least the ways that we have thought through your life and my life anyway, most of it, because I've been around for over 50 years and this is new. It's I still find people that aren't very accepting of it, but it's okay. It's an education, and you guys are doing a great job of educating the public. And I also thank you for that, because you've been doing it for so long, and you're into so many facets of this movement that you're giving it a tremendous amount of legitimacy, which I believe it already has. But there's many folks out there that don't believe that, right? They think it's just, it's a fad or whatever, it's the latest craze. I don't think that that's the case, and I don't think you do either.
No, and look, things take time, right? We, as a society didn't buy into, meat and fast food and all of that overnight. That took time to establish that as staples of the standard American diet. But they've been staples for so long that it's going to take just as long to reverse that trend. So what we're seeing is the tide beginning to turn, but we also have to be patient. We have to be driven in our mission. We have to keep banging the drum for sure, but know that it's not going to happen overnight, and people are going to have their heels dug in the sand for a little while. I mean, look at how long it took for people to come around on smoking. Doctors used to endorse certain brands of cigarettes saying that they're the smoothest, and can you imagine seeing an advertisement like that today? Like, no way.
Right. Very good. Yeah, you're right. That's a great example. And I can use technology almost as an example, right? If you look at electric cars, I mean, there's always been rumors. I mean, I'm not gonna get into saying one thing or the other, but that the development of the electric car has been held back by existing industries, right? Who didn't want to see that being adopted. And then along comes Tesla, and they open source all of their patents so that anyone can use them. And I see other companies doing the same. But for the same concern is that if someone owns a certain new idea or new thing, right, and then plant-based is newer anyway, if someone happens to own it, then someone can buy it and hold it back. But you guys are doing an awesome job of just delivering this information to the public, and through your podcasts and your interviews, and they're available for free. Is this correct?
Absolutely. And they're all over the place. YouTube, Facebook, we do shows there Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. And then Tuesday and Thursday, the traditional podcast comes out on Apple Podcast and Spotify, iHeart, wherever shows are available. That's where you can find the Exam Room by the Physicians Committee. So we're cranking out this content and getting the message out there 5 days a week, man. Just on the audio side alone, we've had over 5.5 million people listen to the show, which is just beyond any expectation that we ever had when we started the show.
Right. Well, yeah, I would agree. That's absolutely phenomenal. And it just is great that you're leveraging all this technology, because kind of like what I was alluding to in the past, you can kind of bury something, right? You can bury some new idea. But now that we're all connected, as long as you all are putting it out there in all these formats and different platforms that are either free or almost anyone can get at any time, that's not going to happen with this type of a movement. So that also excites me, because I know it's just a matter of time. I think you do too, right?
It is. And Mike, I think that if you and I are having this conversation 10 years from now, we're going to look back and kind of laugh at where we were in 2021 versus where we are in 2031 and be like, wow, a lot's happened in 10 years.
Yes. I mean, so much has happened. I know from my perspective, a lot, this almost like you've said, you couldn't believe how many viewers and how many downloads of your podcast you've had, right? If you look back at when you started, you wouldn't believe what's happening right now. Also, just when we started, like 2014, we thought, well, our objective, at least for now, should be to try to get this plant-based information, plant-based lifestyle just out in the public. try to get it into the mainstream, right? And now I think it is in the mainstream. I mean, what would you say? Would you say that, or are we not there yet?
Oh, for sure, it's in the mainstream. I mean, as much as I don't like to use the example, but look at Burger King and the Impossible Whopper and the major campaign that they had surrounding that. And then look at when KFC recently decided to test plant-based chicken nuggets, right? And the line that was around the block at this one or two locations
Yeah.
where they actually were testing that with the consumers. When you see those kinds of results, it's like, man, people are really on board with this. They're not so scared to give up that red meat, that chicken that they've been eating their entire life.
Yeah, that's exciting. It's so great to see. And then what do you see the future? If we've seen this, if you've seen this much transition already, how do you see it playing out? Do you have any ideas on this as we go on? I mean, is everyone going to be plant-based at some point? Like, what's happening in the next few years?
I mean, I would love to tell you that the entire world would go vegan, but the realist in me would say that's not going to happen in our lifetime. You look back to the example that we were just talking about with smoking, and even though we know all of the risk that is associated with smoking, you look at how many people still choose to do so. So,
Yeah.
I think that we will see this shift toward a much, much, much healthier adoption of a plant-based diet. But whether or not in our lifetime we'll see 100% acceptance, I wish I could say yes, but I just can't.
Yeah. Because so there's different degrees to this then, right?
Oh yeah,
A healthier version. So just getting folks away from animal products is, I guess, the first step. And obviously, like you said, all these examples you've given, this has been happening, which is awesome. But then there's another, just a journey that folks are going to be on, learning how to fine tune that, I suppose, right?
for sure, for sure. It's opening the door. So things like those chicken quotations there, the chicken nuggets and the Impossible Whoppers, right? Those are the things that open the door and start that journey. And once you're in, then you start to hear about some of the healthier stuff that you and I get an opportunity to talk about all the time, right? And so then they're like, oh, this makes so much more sense to it. And then you realize the nutritional component with it. You realize the environmental component that comes with it. And yeah, the animal welfare component that comes with it. And so suddenly you get that holy vegan trinity, as I call it. And boom, hopefully these people who have tried the Impossible Whopper or the chicken nuggets have that epiphany and they're off to the races.
All right. Well, that's a good overall view. I think just what you and I have discussed here in the last 10 minutes or so, just how this transition is going and where it's going. I think you have a great, your fingers on the pulse of where this is going, and you're doing all the work too, and you're getting all the stuff out there. So if folks are new to you and they don't know much about your podcast, how would you recommend they get into what you're doing or what's going on at PCRM?
Yeah, well, the easiest thing to do is right on your mobile device here. Hop on Apple Podcast or Spotify, and look for the Exam Room by the Physicians Committee, and just hit the subscribe button, obviously, but then, thumb through, find some episodes that may be of interest to you. I mean, we've been doing this show we're in our 4th season now. So we have hundreds of episodes that you can go back and find something that applies to you. If you're an athlete and you've seen the Game Changers, or you've heard other people talk about, well, oh man, Kyrie Irving in the NBA, he's plant-based. So was the number 1 draft pick in this year's draft. He too was plant-based, and the quarterback for Ohio State, he's now playing for the Bears. Isn't he vegan too? And the answer to all of those questions is yes. So you see that and you want to learn more and you're an athlete, go back and look for some of our episodes, that deal specifically with athletics. The Game Changers episode. I did one recently with the gentleman who wrote The Plant-Based Athlete, Robert Cheek. And Matt Frazier. I mean, these are just phenomenal guys who are so steeped in this knowledge. And then, say heart disease runs in your family, right? You want to avoid that, or you've been diagnosed with it, unfortunately. What are the steps you can take there? We've got episodes on that, reversing cancer, diabetes, lowering your risk for Alzheimer's disease, and so on and so on, and even boosting your immune system. Like everything that you could possibly want, we've done shows on. So just thumb through, find what appeals to you, and just soak up some knowledge.
Yeah, it's like a library you have there that you can just go into that search part, that search bar, and you find anything you want.
No doubt, my friend. No doubt.
It's awesome to live in a time like that, because I know that when I was growing up, I had to go to the library. I had to physically go over there. And most of the time, if I wanted something very specific, I had to, put it in order for the book from another branch because they didn't have it. I had to wait a week and all this, and times have changed. So I'm very thankful for that.
Do you remember how to use the Dewey Decimal System?
Yes. Yeah, yes. And the microfiche too. Remember those things?
Oh my goodness. Yes, sir. Oh man.
It wasn't that long ago.
No, in the grand scheme of things, it absolutely was not. Oh, that's something I haven't thought about in forever. The microfiche. That's funny.
And of course, the late fees if you don't bring your book back on time.
Oh, dude, I'm sure I'm still racking up something from back in elementary school.
Yeah. All right. So I also want to let people know out there who are watching this that both yourself and Dr. Neil Barnard are going to be at some of our events, because we've got, we're just about to enter our event season. This is September of 2021, and we have 17 Veg Fests on the calendar. And I know that you and I were just talking before this broadcast, and you're going to be at 2 of them in Florida in February, I believe. Southwest Florida, our biggest, most original. That's our first event that we did. And then also Miami Veg Fest, I believe. They're both in February. And then Dr. Neil Barnard is going to be at, I think he's actually going to be giving remote presentations. You're going to be there in person, is that right? Or at least that's the plan at this point in time.
Yeah. And so we'll wind up taping an episode of the show. And I think, hopefully he can make the Miami broadcast. Got to double check with his calendar. But I mean, the bottom line is, with technology being what it is these days, I mean, we can pop up anywhere at any of these Veg Fests at any time and tape an episode right there. And the cool thing about that is one of the things that we do every week is we have these live Q&As with Dr. Barnard or whoever our expert is. Well, if we do it at the Veg Fest, I mean, that opens up the opportunity for people to do a Q&A right then and there as well. So, I mean, what better way to get your question answered than by one, asking it of the person right then and there, but two, if you're wondering it, odds are somebody else is as well. So then you ask that question, we get it on the show, then we release it, and then hundreds of thousands of people can hear this. And then they'll be like, oh, I was wondering the same thing. So thank you so very much to Betty, who was at the Southwest Florida Veg Fest. So it's really cool, man.
Yeah, and I just want to clarify, actually. I know that Dr. Neil Barnard is going to be giving a virtual presentation at both Raleigh Veg Fest and Cape Coral, which actually happened in October 31st, and then in November is when Cape Coral is. So,
ooh, yeah. Okay. Well, there you go.
So in the meantime, everybody, if you have not had any experience with Chuck's show, the Exam Room Podcast, you can see the little thing on the background there. Please tune in through the methods that Chuck had mentioned earlier here. And of course, you can always go back and listen to this again. Leave your comments here if you have some for Chuck. We'll get him the questions directly to him if we see them in the comments. And hopefully you can see Chuck in person, right? In the flesh there, in February, in warm South Florida, right? When it's all blue on the weather maps and all the United States, it's kind of like a orange or red down there in Florida, for temperature wise.
Now you're talking. And now you know why we want to do the shows.
Yeah, because February is it. February is like the coldest month. Usually we'll see says most of the United States has snow cover at this time, except for Florida.
Yes, right? Sir. Yes, sir. So I'm going to be packing my Bermuda shorts and Hawaiian shirts, and we're going to do some broadcasting, and it's going to be fantastic.
Yeah, and our events all our festivals are completely outdoor events. So we get to, that's what we do is we try to arrive at the locations during the best weather time of the year. So the only thing we have to be concerned about is a little bit of rain, but usually that's the dry season in Florida. Florida's, believe it or not, almost like a desert climate wise. So again, that's why we're kind of picking these times of the year to have these events. So hopefully we can have an awesome experience out there with Chuck and the Exam Room Podcast, and just meeting all kinds of people, that have only seen him through the internet, which is awesome.
And we do get all kinds of people. Let me wrap up by saying this. I mean, we do get all kinds of people who listen to the show, and a lot of them are the last people you would ever think would have been interested in eating a plant-based diet. They're people like like me, who used to be 420 pounds and very much, in this shock jock, ultra macho environment, sports all day, every day. And you just meat, 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 fast food, fast food, fast food. And that was our life. But then the switch gets flipped, man, and you go on this journey. Maybe it's because you ate that Impossible Whopper and your eyes then began to open a little bit, like you and I were talking about. And lo and behold, here you are listening to what I call the healthiest podcast anywhere, and raising your health IQ with the exam room. And it's just the coolest thing ever that we get those types of individuals with soccer moms and women who are in their 70s and 80s, and trying to live as long and as healthy of a life as possible. And then the 20 somethings who are athletes, looking to take their game to the next level. And it's just this whole collective of people to come together with one mission, and that is to promote a plant-based diet. And it's the coolest thing ever, this melting pot that we've created.
Hmm. Thank you for reminding me of your story too, because just in me talking with you and me knowing you, I never knew you back in the day. Okay, like you said, you were 400 pounds. You look like one of the healthiest people around. I wouldn't even think that, but you are someone that has made that transition, right? So, any other words you want to say about that?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I could talk for days about this. But number one is the most important thing is don't give up on yourself. I did not think I was going to live to see 30 years old. And here I am. Next year, I will turn 40. And every day is a blessing. And I never thought I'd be sitting in this chair for so many reasons. But I had tried and I had failed so many times to lose weight and get healthy and take charge of my life. And I kept trying and trying and trying and trying. And I thought I was destined to fail until, I stumbled across the plant-based diet. And that is what has enabled me to succeed long-term and will carry me healthfully into the future as well. There's no doubt about it. So don't ever give up on yourself. Give this a try. Just 30 days. See what happens. 30 days. Anybody can do 30 days. And then just see. Magic can happen, man.
Yeah, yeah. Well, you've lived it, right? So you're talking from experience, and that's actually, the most, you're gonna touch the most people from that. I'm sure you've already done that, right? Through your broadcasts. And I'm just very thankful that you made that transition also earlier on than most folks, because most folks obviously still haven't made it yet. And you're an inspiration for them. So thank you for that.
For sure, man. And thank you. And I will also throw this caveat out that I did not lose all of my weight eating a plant-based diet, but I daggone sure I'm keeping it off with it. And that's what made the yo-yo dieting stop. Like I was able to cut that string finally. So even if you've transitioned to a diet like keto or something like that, where you've crashed and you've lost like a ton of weight, but now you're worried about putting it back on like every other diet that you've ever been on, this is also the time to transition to a plant-based diet. So you don't have to watch that scale painfully move in the wrong direction again. You can
Yeah.
continue to lead that healthier life that you've always wanted for the rest of your life, for goodness sakes.
Yeah, well, that's some excellent advice. I mean, and it's taken me a while to understand that too. But trying to put this all together, I guess, to go to the very end, I guess, where we'd love to see everyone reach, which is, optimal health by eating plant-based, in just the right way. It's taken me a while to realize that you truly can eat all you want if you're doing it just right. You know what I'm saying? I mean, the closer you get to doing this lifestyle right, you get to the point, and I'm already there. I can tell you, I can literally eat all day, whatever I want, and the food is delicious. And I didn't think that was possible, because even as I got older, I started to gain a little bit of weight, like folks seem to as the years go by. But as I've gotten better and better and honed it more and more, you realize, like, nobody tells you this when you're growing up, that you just eat all you want, because no one really knew that about this lifestyle back when you and I were growing up. I don't think, not really, not in the way that we know it now.
No, I knew the term vegetarian and I always thought that they were such weird people. I didn't quite understand it. Like, who are these scary people that don't drink milk and won't eat a hamburger? I don't want them in my life, man. But they were ahead of their time, man. And I'm so glad that so many people are coming around on this. It's just been one of the joys of my life, Mike, even over the last 4 or 5 years, just to see the needle move like so much in the right direction. You know, we still have a long way to go, obviously, man, but that needle is moving and it's picking up steam.
Hmm. And kind of like you're alluding to, we're kind of just really standing on the shoulders of those that have gone before us, right? In this movement, but you also working with PCRM. PCRM is also, like I said, one of the pioneers, I think, in this, really in the way we see it today, anyway, one of the pioneers. So I thank you for all that and everyone with the organization and doing all the work that you all are doing.
I appreciate it, my friend. Appreciate it.
Yeah, so that's all I got for now, unless you want to add something. And I can't wait to see you within the next couple months. Just, having a great time outdoors and just showing folks about how fun the plant-based lifestyle is.
Oh, it's going to be so much fun. I can't wait. And thank you for everything, by the way, that you are doing as well. I mean, I know you are, like we said at the top, working tirelessly to do what it is that you do, and to see the volume of events that you put on is mind blowing. So, I mean, my hat is off to you. It's like you, in my view, like you are one of the biggest movers and shakers in the plant-based movement, because when you talk about just bringing people together, if you added everybody up who comes through the veg fests that you are promoting, you're reaching a ton of people, brother.
Yeah, we try. We're thankful for the technology, right? That we can leverage the technology to be able to do this. And yeah, we have touched a lot of people, and we view ourselves as educational, right? So there's always more education, more people that need to be educated. We are still learning ourselves. So we see that the work is going to keep going on, but we feel there's nothing more important to be working on. So we're glad to be here.
Cheers to that.
Yep, and that's it. All right. Well, thank you guys so much for watching. And be sure to check us out in person soon, both myself and Chuck. All you got to do is check our calendar. And actually, the easiest way to do that, depending upon where you're happening to be watching this, is just go to the URL ecofest.info, ecofest.info. That takes you to our aPlantBasedDiet.org website on a special tab where you can see our festivals where we're going to be outdoors, and you can see the ones in Florida. You can click on that, and hopefully we'll see you there. So bye-bye. Thank you, Chuck.
Thank you, my friend.
All right.